These are among the first footprints of civilized man. 5,000 years ago, this brick-built city, with its broad, straight streets, planned with the chessboard symmetry of a modern town, stood out along the river Indus. Its planning reminds us of New York, says the celebrated archaeologist Sir Mortimer Wheeler. This is the most striking monument of the famed Indus Valley civilization that flourished in Pakistan's provinces of Sindh and the Punjab much before the long march of history began. This capital city is now called Mohenjo-Daro, or the Mound of the Dead. A misnomer indeed, for the city can never die. Even today it cuts a resplendent figure. It belongs to the most expansive of the three great civilizations which developed along the rivers Indus, the Nile, and the Euphrates. In a brick-built city, kins ought to have existed, looking not much different from those of today. Mohenjo-Daro has handed down to posterity the technique of making baked bricks. Forest wealth made woodcutting a favorite occupation. For some, it remains so even today. A moist climate, essential for afforestation, meant heavy rainfall. This is supported by the steatite seals depicting animals of rainforests like tigers, elephants, and the rhinoceros. Surprisingly, the camel, Sindh's most popular beast of burden today, is conspicuous by its absence. The area was certainly not a desert in the remote past. That explains the transformation of a primitive society into an urban civilization. The idea of a civilization came naturally to a people living in a land climatically suited to an advanced society. The remains of the glory that was give a glimpse of the prosperous life that the inhabitants of the prehistoric city enjoyed. They possessed a civilization more sophisticated and advanced than the culture of the Aryans. An important landmark in the early progress of man, Mohenjo-Daro also reveals a classic example of the principles of town planning. With the accent on utility and comfort, every house has an antechamber, a parlor, a courtyard, and moderate-sized living rooms. And you very well know what this flight of steps suggests. Obviously, these houses had 2 or 3 stories, a belief further supported by the thickness of the walls. The streets are so devised that the houses are amply ventilated. In all the houses, a recurrent feature is an emphasis on water supply. These tower-like wells were dug at various periods of 1,000 years of habitation of the Indus Valley civilization. Every house had its own bathroom with an outlet for water to flow down to the cesspools. The underground drainage system is still a model for town planners. The rooms are well ventilated, the windows fitted with lattices of alabaster and terracotta to bar the flux of light and heat of the scorching sun of Sindh. Mud plaster provided a cool retreat. Mohenjo-Daro must have looked like this in its prime. Grown according to a master plan, it was divided into sectors which separated the elite, the priests and officials, from the common folk. The central area is dominated by a Buddhist stupa, which might have been a temple earlier. This bejeweled figure is the mother goddess, worshipped elsewhere in the ancient world also. And these seals represent mythological creatures including the unicorn and the Brahmanical bull. And there seems to be a close link between the ancient faith and this magnificent great bath, a place of religious bathing. No wonder the great bath still fires one's imagination. The floor is reached by brick steps which have been provided with timber treads and asphalt. The great bath is an excellent example of superb masonry and bricklaying. The floors and sides are plastered with asphalt and the side walls are lined with bitumen to make the tank watertight. The well supplies fresh water to the tank. To the north of the great bath are 8 small rooms, each providing complete privacy to the user. Possibly, these were used by the priests, while the great bath was for the general public. The brick floors are well polished. The priest king, as the spiritual and temporal guardian, dominated life in Mohenjo-Daro. The golden band symbolizes his authority. The cult of priesthood was common in contemporary cultures. And this is the collegiate building, also known as the residence of the high priest. Another noteworthy building is the assembly hall, perhaps the site of man's first experiment in local self-government. Many of the details of life may be hidden in the still undeciphered pictographic inscription which poses one of the biggest challenges of Indus Valley archaeology. The writing consists of more than 250 symbols. The reduced size of residential quarters in the lower city indicates it to be the sector of the working classes. Here too, staircases and wells for water are a regular feature. This is the place where brisk buying and selling took place, the market. At the dyer's shop, we see a number of shallow pits capped with bricks to hold the vats of chemicals and dyes. It is not difficult to conjure up a picture of the ancient dyer, who had much in common with his present-day counterpart. Side by side with this traditional art flourished the craft of carpentry, which particularly catered to the transport needs of Mohenjo-Daro's growing economy. A bullock cart was possibly the most popular means of transportation then. Similar carts are in use in the area even today alongside fast-moving modern vehicles. The coppersmith played a vital role in the life of the people of Mohenjo-Daro. He produced for them domestic utensils, implements, and statuettes. The bronze implements are among the objects representing the Bronze Age civilization. In the range of implements, we find stone tools as well, evidently used as knives for cutting meat and vegetables. There is a striking similarity between the traditional potter of today and his forerunner, who also turned lumps of clay into varied objects of utility and beauty. Among his creations is this painted pottery, its outstanding feature being decorations on the red ware. This ware bears a seal which might have been a trademark. These models indicate the various shapes and designs of Mohenjo-Daro's pottery. Figural art is best illustrated by the lifelike representation of animals such as sheep. This suggests that sheep rearing must have been a favorite occupation of the people. Likewise, buffaloes were central to the predominantly agricultural economy of Mohenjo-Daro. They ploughed the land and provided milk and meat for the people. The returning herds of buffaloes must have been a familiar sight in the crimson glow of the evening. Bulls and buffaloes predominated in life and art since farming sustained the economy. From time immemorial, wheat was the primary farm product and the staple food. The history of date cultivation can also be traced to Mohenjo-Daro. The smiling and verdant fields of Sesamon must have lent the heady fragrance of spring to the ancient valley. The Indus Valley has been recognized as the world's earliest cotton growing area. Egypt received its first cotton cloth from Mohenjo-Daro. Rice cultivation was also practiced in the Indus Valley, which enjoyed a heavy rainfall in ancient times. An abundant grain output required adequate storage facilities. Bullock carts carried the grain from the nearby fields to the great granary. Solid masonry blocks made the podium supporting a timber floor, and air ducts kept the bottom dry and safe from ground moisture. The granary may have held buffer stocks to meet sudden emergencies such as famine and crop failure. It also acted as a public treasury in barter trade with other lands. For its daily business transactions in the marketplace, the people of the ancient city used a highly standardized binary system of weights and measures. This could have been a port, and the Indus might have flowed here. Possibly, it changed its course later. Today's sailing boats have a striking resemblance to the seal of a sailing boat found at Mohenjo-Daro. Trade was carried on with the neighboring communities of Sumer and Mesopotamia by land and by sea. This trefoil pattern from Mesopotamia carried some ritual connotation. It is seen on the bull of heaven of Mesopotamia and on the robes of the priest king of Mohenjo-Daro. Beaded pottery and the carnelian beads also reflect close ties with Mesopotamia. The ancient woman was indeed no less fashion conscious than her descendants today. Ornaments of clay, shell, faience and paste beads were favored by the poor. Necklaces and pendants of semi-precious stones were also commonly used. Nothing, of course, satisfies a woman's vanity more than the reflection of her own beauty. This improvised mirror must have been of great use to the beauties of Mohenjo-Daro. A glimpse into their fashion is also provided by this hairstyle. The fashionable ladies of Mohenjo-Daro also knew the use of mascara. These gold necklaces would win the heart of any woman. And for that matter, any modern girl would love to wear these carnelian beads. Fillets, earrings, and other pieces of jewelry bear evidence to the ancient woman's passion for ornamentation. Tiny cosmetic jars indicate the sophistication of their lifestyle. Sculptural art includes the bull's head with a detailed study of its anatomy and lifelike replicas of monkeys and squirrels. Birds in motion were modeled. The sculptor's sense of dimension and understanding of nature stemmed from his love for the outdoor. His carefree life provided him with enough leisure to observe nature. The toy bull with a nodding head would delight any child of today. For its fun-loving adults, with time hanging on their hands on idle afternoons, Mohenjo-Daro produced this absorbing chess-like game. Indeed, their zest for life is reflected in the model of this dancing girl. The swing of her body could only have been portrayed by an accomplished artist. The architectural grandeur of Mohenjo-Daro has attracted tourists from home and abroad for the past 50 years. The remains were first identified in 1922 and at once acquired worldwide fame. To the people of Pakistan, it is a treasured monument. The sight of a 5,000-year-old well is so fascinating that no tourist can resist the temptation to have a wash amid the ruins of this great civilization. Seeing a well resembling a water jug from outside is reminiscent of Alice in Wonderland. A civilization as rich and ancient as this has been freed from time into timelessness. The glory which sprang from Mohenjo-Daro has spread out to suffuse the hearts of men of all time. The excavation, which stands out of the shadowy lanes of history to reveal a highly sophisticated society, is today the proud heritage of all mankind.